Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Chandima Dutton. She is a coach, consultant, facilitator, helping leaders engineer resilience in themselves and their people. I have Doug McRae. He runs an investment advisory firm that connects people's life purpose to how they use their finances. And I have Frank Galindo. He has 20 years experience working in PR, where he enjoys bringing people together and creating partnership relationships. The question I have today: how would you notice if you were people pleasing, and then what would you do about it? Frank, kick us off.
Sure, Dr. R. So when I saw the topic, my mind immediately went to the idea of saying yes. When I noticed that no matter what I'm asked to do, no matter how much pressure I know it's going to put on me, no matter how stressed I might be, I just keep saying yes, 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 yes. That's when I start to realize, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm saying yes, but what is the other person doing to contribute to not stress me out, to help lighten the load, and taking on some responsibility and accountability for whatever I'm being asked to do that I'm saying yes to. And when I stop to analyze this, hold on a second, I think I'm doing too much to make other people happy and not enough to ensure that I'm healthy and happy in my present state in whatever it is that I'm working towards. So that's when I catch myself and I'm like, wait. Okay, I'm doing all this. Great, they're happy, but what are they doing? And wait a minute, I'm not happy anymore. Just in a nutshell. So that's where I'm coming from.
I think similar. I think it's very easy to be a people pleaser in a kind of helping capacity. And for me, what came up was at somewhere down the line, my needs aren't being met. Because if I'm saying yes, 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 at some point I'm going to run out of time or energy or sleep. I need to catch myself. And that's just having a good eye on what you can do, what you want to do, and whether those basic needs are being met. If I start working a little bit later and the kind of mission creep happens, I have to bring myself in and check in on, well, actually, this isn't going to do anyone any good if I turn up tired the next morning.
Yeah, I agree with everything. What Frank said makes a lot of sense. And maybe by agreeing with both of you, I'm people pleasing. But the first thing that came to mind when I saw the question was if I'm not being clear in the way I communicate and I'm confusing people, because I find I'm hedging a little bit with my language, because I don't want to come right out and say what I really feel. I absolutely believe in being humble and gracious in the way we communicate. We don't have enough of that, frankly, now. But when you're people pleasing, I don't think you're helping, because you're not really. I think we begin to heal when people hear what I really believe, but they hear it in a humble way, even if they don't agree with me. Then we can start a real conversation. But when I get people to come back to me and say, well, what did you mean by that? Or didn't you just say, and I didn't feel like I meant to say that. If it gets really unclear, then I know I'm hedging too much and I'm really trying too hard I'm trying so hard to not offend that I'm not communicating anything.
I know for me, when I realize it when I start seeing someone's name pop up on my phone or in my email, and I'm like, oh, then I'm like, okay, there's something going on here that I'm not comfortable with. What is that? What is happening here? Because for most people, when I see their name in my inbox or on my phone, I'm like, oh, yay, I get to hear from them. That's nice. So when I start getting that feeling of, oh, I don't want to hear from that person, I know there's something that to your point, Doug, I'm either suppressing, or I'm saying yes too much, or they're expecting too much from me. And then I have to make the decision, am I going to actually say something and say, look, this is not working, or am I going to just back off from it more in a more kind of gray rock kind of way, like not give them a whole bunch of emotional feedback and support where they start taking from me? And that for me is the hard part, is do I actively change it, or do I kind of passively change it?
Questions are always a good way of kind of putting a little bit of distance between you and the yes answer. So if you can find out a little bit more about what it is they want. So I'm taking people pleasing as a kind of when someone wants you to do something for them. Just trying to just pause that kind of instinctive yes and just asking them about it, because it could be that they've decided on a course of action which isn't going to suit anyone, and you could find a better way which perhaps doesn't involve you doing as much. or may be involve them doing things differently.
Those ambush conversations, when someone catches you off guard and you're more likely to say yes if you don't take that breath and ask those questions. That's a really good point. Mm-hmm.
One of the things you're also doing when you are responding and not people pleasing is if you get past the conflict avoidance part of it and just tell people the truth in as gracious a way as you can, you're essentially communicating to them that I trust you with the truth. Sometimes I think, for me personally, I'm thinking too highly of myself. I actually told myself this past year that I need to resign from a couple of nonprofit boards because I'm just too busy. And they can manage without me. And that was a little hard for me to come to grips with. I finally got around to doing it, and I can't say they're 100% pleased, but they're fine. I had to learn to trust them with, you know what, I'm going to give you this information and you're still going to like me, even though I'm not doing exactly what you want me to do.
That makes a good point, is that if someone only wants you around for what they can get from you and they're angry if you won't give them that, then that's a whole nother level of problem.
Yeah.
You can't make everybody happy, and certainly not make them happy all the time. You can do your best. And to your point, Dr. R, hopefully those folks understand that and appreciate what you're able to give. I like Chandima's comment about taking a step back and digging a little bit deeper to find out what exactly is it that's going on. Because you can get caught off guard, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh yeah, okay, because you're not sure where to go with that. But I guess it takes some skill and practice to be able to hit the brakes and go, okay, but do it, back to Doug's point, humbly, respectfully, so that people don't feel like you think who you are or you're too good for whatever it is that they're asking you to do. It's not that. It's just like, let's talk about this a little bit more and make sure that there's a win-win. Everybody benefits.
I know for me, I have some people who reach out to me and they are just emotionally very draining. And if I were going to be a people pleaser, I would be exhausted if I had to deal with them all of the time. If I get a text string that's like this long from them, I have to learn to not respond with a whole bunch of emotional, oh my goodness, you have so much, let me help you, and let them, to your point, Doug, manage on their own and just reply with something like, it sounds like you are still really busy. And, and I'll get another big text string back, and not allow them to pull me into these big, long, emotive text conversations.
And I think to that point, it's kind of helping them build some resilience in themselves. If they can't rely on people to jump in and help them all the time, that's showing them they can do it. They can be a bit more resilient.
That ability to self-soothe. I feel like a lot of adults haven't learned to do that super effectively, that ability to manage their own emotions.
Absolutely. And I think knowing what's important to you, doing a bit of work on yourself and knowing what's important to you for that time, for that situation, you can have those conversations, you can dig deep, as Frank said. You can decide if that's something you want to put your energy towards. And if it's not, you can very respectfully say no, or just kind of say, well, it's not for me right now.
And I think it depends too about how you're being compensated. Like, I'm just thinking, when I get long text messages from clients and they need support, that's what they pay me for. That's what I do. But if it's a friend, and I'm going to use that term really broadly, I might be less inclined to do that for multiple cycles.
And it does depend on the nature of the relationship. There are definitely people in my life, hopefully they're not watching this, but are ones that will draw me into something like what you're talking about, Robyn. But because of the nature of the relationship, I'm okay with it because I feel like I'm helping. So I'm going to give them a little bit more of my time. You can't do that with everybody. But in my life right now, this particular person needs this. And there's really no one else who's supplying it for them. So I'm going to do it. And then there are other people who, you know what, they need to figure this out on their own. I'm not the person that's going to be helpful for them. Stop trying to be their helper here. I'm not the one who's going to be able to do it.
That is our 10 minutes. So I will cut us off there. I do think that this is one of those things that has a really broad line. Like, there's not black and white of, oh yeah, I do it always this way or always do it that way. It depends upon the person. It depends upon where you are. It depends upon your emotional ability to support someone. So I think there's a lot of gray, and I appreciate you spending some time with me talking through it. Thanks so much. I look forward to speaking to each of you again really soon.